Hey there, everybody. It's AJ, also known as Adam Judd, with the Pattaya news on what's poppin' in Pattaya. When you watch this, it will be the middle of Songkran week 2023, the first Songkran in 4 years, as we've stated before. It's been an eventful week. We've got stories, everything from the resolution of a group of exiled Chinese Christians who managed to get out of Thailand without major problems, as well as all the Songkran madness and what police are doing to try to control the situation. But before we get to that, we wanted to thank our sponsors this week, which is Thavorn Property, the perfect solution for finding your home and real estate right here in Pattaya. Now let's get right into our stories. Now, normally we start these with what's going on with events and different things happening. For the next couple days until April 19th, there's really only one event, and that is Songkran. Also, the Thai New Year or the Water Festival, which is dominating not only, of course, Pattaya, but Thailand as well. Now, as discussed, this is the first one since 2019, or at least the first one that has allowed water fights, concerts, festivals, and parades. They did allow the traditional religious ones, which many people, including our own readers and viewers, prefer more, although many of the tourists prefer the more phenomenal, exciting water fights and the things that look better for videos. Speaking of phenomenal events, by the time you watch this, we'll have already visited the Rolling Loud, which is Thailand's pretty much biggest concert they've ever had, which is devoted around hip-hop artists. Some of them you might have heard of if you're familiar with hip-hop, and for our readers who may not be, you may not have heard of some of the artists like Cardi B, Travis Scott, Lil Pump, Chris Brown, and many, many more. That will be running at Legend Siam, which is located right by Nong Nooch Gardens and Columbia Aquaverse Water Park, about 15 minutes outside of central Pattaya, from the 13th until the 15th. Now, of course, there's concerts all over Thailand, like in Bangkok. You have S2O in the Siam Waterverse and Bangkok Water Bombs. Even here in Pattaya, we have other events too. Like at Central Mall, for those who want to check it out, you'll have Boki Lions, Silly Fools, and many other major Thai performers performing at the front of Central Mall on Pattaya Beach Road, all Songkran week. Also, for those of you who can't make it to Rolling Loud but want to see some of the big artists like Offset, you can actually check out, and The Baby, you can check out 808 Club on Walking Street, which is the official home of the after party for Songkran. We want to warn you though, you may want to get there real early or reserve a table because that is going to be absolutely packed. Now, for April 19th, we discussed this on our last What's Poppin' in Pattaya, but we wanted to just reiterate. This year, Beach Road will not be closed all the way. It will be closed from Central Pattaya Klong all the way down to Walking Street. However, the Dolphin Roundabout to Central Klong will remain open to vehicle traffic. We got a lot of comments from our readers about that over the past week and whether or not that's a good idea. Well, with all the water going on, with everybody on the back of their trucks and throwing water left and right, it could be an interesting decision, but police hope it will allow traffic to flow better. Our advice for April 19th, don't take your car out, really don't. It's impassable for most of the city because everybody's in the back of pickup trucks throwing water. In fact, most taxi companies don't even work that day. We do strongly recommend, though, to check it out. There's going to be all sorts of events and vendors and concerts and fun up and down Beach Road. And for those of you that hate the ice water, April 19th is pretty cool because traffic is so bad, the ice trucks can't get anywhere. So all the water is pretty much warm or lukewarm at least. Now, speaking of Songkran, for the past couple days, police have been running nightclub inspections all around the city, especially at nightclubs running big concerts, because there's so many celebrities, and again, first time in 4 years, that people can have these big parties and events. It seems like every nightclub in Pattaya is having a Songkran party. However, police are concerned about crowd crush. They're also concerned about emergency exits and fire extinguishers, so they'll be checking those. There also have been several raids in the past week in which police have been checking specifically for foreigners for having your passport. Now, I know immediately what you're saying. You're going to say, there's water everywhere. I'm not bringing my passport out. You're crazy. We get it. What they're asking for at the very least is a photo on your phone. For those who don't want to bring your phones out or afraid your phone may not be waterproof, you can get a laminated card with both your ID and your passport stamp at pretty much any little Kodak or photo shop in the city for only a few baht, and those work very well during this time of year. Speaking of nightclub raids this week, police also raided a nightclub called the Laon Nightclub, Laon. Mysteriously enough, they found Laos workers at the Laon nightclub, 5 of them who supposedly were working without a work permit and were illegally there. Now, police stated they're going to be checking for these on a regular basis in and around the city. The other raid we wanted to talk about, and this has been the buzz around town, but there's been a lot of rumors and false information about these raids, so we wanted to set them straight. Police also went on inspections or raids, whatever you want to call it, on Soi 6 in the past week and inspected several clubs and venues specifically for regular things like licenses, but also real specifically to make sure that there was nobody under the age of 20 or minors working. Now, there were a lot of false rumors and information, but police themselves admitted that although they did detain some people for a period of time and brought some people down to the police station, nothing was found during their inspections up and down the 6. The venues were reopened, people were released, and were allowed to go back to work. However, police did warn that these inspections would continue, and also during Songkran, this is an important point, they want to make sure that people below 20, not just working obviously, but are not drinking in bars. In prior years during Songkran, this rule was kind of relaxed, especially with families of kids playing in bars, but they really don't want the kids in and around the bar areas. There's plenty of other activities and play areas specifically for kids in and around Pattaya. Now, for our next story, we're going to move on from Songkran because we've talked that to death already. Oh, by the way, don't drive drunk, checkpoints everywhere. 5 Chinese were arrested with no work permits yesterday as well. Speaking of working illegally like Laon Nightclub, these 5 Chinese were reported by what you guys love to hear, a concerned citizen, for allegedly working illegally. Well, police showed up at the M Mountain village, and indeed, they found a large group of Chinese who were basically working as illegal loan sharks, according to police. Now, all their customers were in China, but they didn't have a work permit to work. Of course, getting a work permit to be a loan shark probably isn't going to happen anyways. And also, 4 of the 5 were on overstay. So they're all going to be taking a trip back to China, not at Thailand's expense, as soon as they can afford to do so. Our next story that we have for you was one of our most read stories in the last week and actually angered a lot of people. And this is the fact that 8 people died in a minivan accident located in Muang Chonburi, or Chonburi City, in the past week. There were actually 19 people in this minivan overall. All of them, other than the driver, were migrant workers who were being taken, speaking of everything from work permits, who were being taken for a work permit renewal. They were working legally. However, the driver allegedly fell asleep, crashed. The driver died in the accident also, along with 7 other migrant workers. And the other people in the minivan also suffered major injuries. This once again raised a discussion about the safety of minivans and minibuses overall. We actually heard from one of our viewers who runs a local minivan and transportation company. And he stated that he was appalled by the fact that there were 19 people stuffed into a small minivan that should normally fit about 9 people comfortably. And of course, this was part of the problem, and of course, the driver falling asleep. It remains to be seen if there will be any sort of charges against the minivan company. Unlikely. Our next story for you, we're almost wrapped up for this week because we're running a little bit long here. We got 2 more for you, and both of them are happy endings. I mean, we always like to hear about happy endings in Pattaya, right? Anyways, Chinese exiles we talked about in our last What's Poppin' in Pattaya, the fact that a group of 63 Chinese who had fled China from alleged prosecution because of their religious beliefs, gone to Korea. Korea didn't want them. They came to Thailand, and they went on overstay because in Thailand, to get a visa renewal as a Chinese national, you need permission from the Chinese embassy right now due to the crackdowns and Chinese working in gray areas, etc. Of course, that won't work because they feared that the moment they went to the embassy, they would be sent back to China. The American government got involved because the Christian group that they belong to, the Mayflower Group, began in America. And so they got a happy ending to the story in which they were able to be transferred to Texas, which is where they wanted to go, the home of this church, other than one family of 4 that for undisclosed reasons decided to stay in Thailand. The rest, though, did not get sent back to China, like was the fear of many activists and human rights groups, and are now safely in America. Last but not least for the week, and another happy ending here in Pattaya, is we reported last week about some really rough construction sites in and around East Pattaya, specifically around the sports stadiums and sports parks in that area. And the fact that many local residents, we'll put some photos of this on the video as well, were really concerned about this construction work, especially at night, because there were no lights, there's no barriers, nobody warning anybody. The Pattaya mayor actually saw this coverage and responded, not just from us, but from some other local media too. We want to be humble, but we were one of the main ones that reported it, and stated that brand new barriers and brand new lighting will be installed in and around this construction, and they're also going to try to expedite the work, but that's going to be after Songkran, as most road work right now is on pause until the festival ends. By the time you see our next festival, our next video, the festival will be over, you'll be dry again, hopefully. Many of you are hiding anyways, I see you. And we'll be able to move on to May. What's happening in May, you think? That's election season, but that's a story for another time. As always, we appreciate your support. Make sure you like, subscribe, and or follow if you haven't already. Make sure you tell us what you think. What stories do you want to hear? What do you think about our format? Let us know in comments. As always, we appreciate you guys. Happy Thai New Year. Take care of yourselves and each other.